Hello, my wings back to another fabulous video here on my channel. I'm Jacob Books Corner, and today we're doing my best books of the year. These are the top 10 best books. However, I do have a tidbit. We have the most surprising in here as well, and I have 4 of those. And then we also have 3 in honorable mentions. Actually, we have 2 honorable mentions, 1 nonfiction. Because I read a nonfiction this year that's just so fucking good that I have to sit here and tell you about it because I think it's important. But first things first, if you want to skip to most surprising, which will be the first tidbit we'll go into before we jump into honorable mentions, I want to quickly plug that I wrote 3 books. I wrote Gunshot Residue, P49, and Mr. St. James. The entire trilogy of GSR is out right now. You can read it as we speak, and I'm just going to read you some taglines. That's what I've been doing for this end of the year content, and I've enjoyed it so far. We have the first one, which is Gunshot Residue, is your husband's secrets enough to shatter your world? I'll tell you a little bit more about the first book because it is the first book in a trilogy, as well as Alex, as he believes his husband is cheating on him, so he goes out to figure out if this is true or not. I realize that there is a bigger mystery at hand. That's all you really need to know. P49, which is its tagline is, what are you really capable of? The final book, Mr. St. James, which just came out, is How Far Are the Bounds of Love? In case you want to read something I wrote. Alright, that being said, let's go ahead and do the most surprising. The most surprising are books from authors that I've never read from that shocked me, from authors I've read from that I did not like, or like genuinely I was just like really surprised. All these I was really surprised with. We have Watch Me by Tara Mafi. This is the new book in the new Shatter Me series. I did not like the Shatter Me series. I read all like 14 books. I read all the novellas. I did the whole thing for a video that got canceled. It's a whole, I don't get into it, but I read Watch Me. I read this for a 25 and 25 video, which I think should be up by now. Guys, it was really good. It was impressively good. I can't really tell you anything about it. It is a sequel series to the original Shatter Me, and so we're dealing with a really important character from that series, meaning a brand new character, which I really like. It does seem like the sequel is going to go back into like the Shatter Me typicals, so I don't know how much I'm going to like the series overall. However, the first book caught me by a world no surprise. The other one we're going to talk about is No Body, No Crime. This is from an author I've never read from before, and I felt like the concept sounded really good, but I ended up really enjoying myself. I liked how very gutsy it is. I feel like there's a lot of things in the book that I was like, oh, we're really just gonna do this, or we're just gonna go for it. And that makes me really happy, and that made me have a great time with it. It's about this girl who essentially her and her best friend possibly did a crime, and she and her best friend ended up going on the run. She becomes a PI, and her dad's dying, so she asks, can you go find my daughter? She ends up finding her, and it's a whole mess. I would say it's more like an action romantic suspense, and I would highly recommend it if that's something interesting. The next one I read would be Sky Daddy, which I put on this list. Sky Daddy is also another one from an author I've never read before, and a lot of people are going to say this is the worst book of the year, or one of the worst books of the year. I really like Sky Daddy. I like a book that has a premise and decides to stick with it. It's about a woman who has a very strong sexual attraction to plane, and that's all I'll tell you about it. The main character can be quite frustrating and annoying to read sometimes. All the plane facts could become a lot. However, in my opinion, it all worked really well. Sky Daddy. Then we also have We Are All Guilty Here by Karen Slaughter. This is the first book in her brand new series. I happened to pick it up randomly. I heard a lot of good things. I was like, oh, it can't be that good. It was fucking phenomenal. It was not homophobic. It wasn't racist. It wasn't all these things that I feel like Karen Slaughter has been kind of known for these past few years. I was blown away by the story. It takes place on 4th of July. 2 girls go missing, and you're following this person who's doing everything in her power to find them. And yeah, it's beautiful. I cannot wait for the sequel. I'm very excited. With that being said, let's go talk about our 2 honorable mentions, and then we'll talk about our 1 nonfiction that I have on here. Yes, is it a goal to read more nonfiction this year? Yes, you believe it. Our 2 honorable mentions are Sky Full of Elephants. Sky Full of Elephants is a story about another controversial pick. I loved it. I felt like it was so nuanced. There's a lot of very beautiful conversations going on. A world where all the white people in the world commit suicide and die, and so you're left with marginalized people. Specifically the black community is what this is talking about, but I'm going to assume if you don't represent the white community in any way, shape, or form, you survived. We're dealing also, interestingly enough, it's also talking about mixed race and stuff as well. The main character, her dad is a convict, and we're following him, but we're also following his daughter, which is also one of the main characters, which is the main character, and she is half white and she's half black, and we're dealing with what that looks like inside this world as well. And I feel like the conversations, everything was very beautiful. I don't think the 3rd act is as strong as it could be. be, equaling an honorable mention. However, I would highly recommend it if you have never heard of it, or if you have heard of it and you're on the fence. I think it's worth your time. You could absolutely hate it for sure, but look at the nuances before you hate it and figure out why you hate it. Then lastly, we'll have Spectators. Spectators is the only graphic novel I put on this list. Spectators is a book that's an extremely adult book. Oh my god, do not pick this up if you're anything under 18. It's very graphic, very, very graphic. It follows a woman who dies in a mass shooting, and she becomes a spectator in this world, and essentially spectators can watch anything, and she goes and she watches people's lives as they get into very risky territories, and it's about the end of the world as well. So it's beautiful, in my opinion. Absolutely loved it. I could not stop thinking about it. I read this back in like May. I loved it. And then my nonfiction that I want to talk about this year is One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar El Akkad. The only reason why this is not in my top 10 books and why it's separated is because I think nonfiction should be separated. If I read nonfiction, I don't even think I'd rank them. I'd just be like, these are the nonfiction I really love this year. Read them all up. This one is talking about everything going on in Gaza. This author is recounting direct events from his own life, also events from what's going on in real time as the book was written. And even in the book, it's stated that like his editor was like, I don't know if this is going to get published. We're going to try really hard, but hopefully it does. They might try to block it. And that's because people don't want to talk. People don't want you talking about this. You don't want to talk about the genocide that's going on right now across the world if you live anywhere else but the place that's going on. And it should be talked about. And I think this book was absolutely beautiful. I can understand where some of the complaints are coming from with it. I saw a few of them and I was like, I can see some of the angles. But however, in my opinion, I absolutely love it. I think everyone needs to read it. I think it's both beautifully thought-provoking, heart-wrenching. I think it needs to be read. I think it's a necessary read, in my opinion. Go pick it up. Of all the books on this list that you should go pick up, this is it. This is the one. Okay, now let's jump into my actual top 10 of the year. There is technically no order. The number 1 book is number 1. Everything else can be interchangeable, like I say every year. The first, number 10, coming in at number 10 is How to Become a Dark Lord and Die Trying. This is about Davi. She is living in a world where she is constantly resurrected. She essentially was told that she is the chosen one and she keeps losing this war. And so one time she kills the person who wakes her up and goes and tries to be the Dark Lord. She falls in love with the beautiful orc. I love Davi. I love everything Davi has to say. I love everything Davi has to do. Davi is a fucking phenomenal character. Did I love its sequel as much? I did not. I did not like the conclusion. I felt like it was a little rushed. But the first book, it's 10 out of 10 fucking phenomenal. Is it fantasy written from a guy's point of view and a female protagonist? For sure. Like, it's not for everybody, but it really worked for me. I was really happy with it. I would highly recommend. Number 9 is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is going to turn into a movie next year. I'm excited to do a reread, to do a novel versus for you in November. This follows Haymitch during the Game 25 Quarter Club, and this follows on the 15th annual Hunger Games, which is a quarter quell, and they send in 48 victors instead of the average 24, and Haymitch this is his games. I have a whole video talking about this book, my thoughts and opinions, and how much it broke me. It fucking tore my heart out. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Susan Collins found her shit again because she lost it and now she found it. And I'm really excited for the movie. I am disappointed with all the announcements that are coming out, but I'm still really excited for it. So I read the book. I don't feel like certain things should be spoiled for people who have not read the book. The next one is Margot's Got Money Trouble. This comes in number 8. Margot's Got Money Troubles is objectively a book that's very small and linear in scope compared to a lot of the rest of these. Margot, I just fucking adored as a character. I felt for her. I just wanted to be there. I wanted to help her through everything that's going on. I feel like she was really going through it, and I just want to give her a hug. I love Margot so much. I know a lot of people don't like Margot. I saw a lot of reviews being like, Jacob, you're wrong. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. I also have a hard time recommending Margot's Got Money Trouble just because, like, it's just so much. But I would highly recommend. I don't know. I would still recommend it. I loved Margot's Got Money Trouble. It took me by surprise. If it wasn't a 5-star read, which it is, it would be most surprising because it would be like a 4.5. It is a 5-star read. And it is one of my favorite. The next one is a staple on this list. Every year I have a few authors stop having the right books yearly, and they won't be on here. And that is Every Step She Takes by Alison Crocken. I was like, she wrote a new book. Okay, I'll read it. But like, it has to be a 5-star. If it's a 5-star, all 4 of her releases are 5 stars. All-time favorite author. I've never done that before. I don't think I have a single author on my list that I gave every single book a 5-star read. It was a 5-star. And yeah, like, oh my god. It's about a woman. She's 35 years old, and That's Sadie, and she ends up going on this trip for her sister. She doesn't realize it's a queer trip where they're backpacking 200 miles, and they're walking the whole way across this entire thing, and she ends up meeting Mel, who she's there for other reasons. It's not so much this. Her dad owned a winery, and she's inheriting it, and she has to go to this funeral. And they end up in an unlikely relationship as she is figuring out her sexuality. Having read other books written not by someone who has to try to figure out their sexuality, it makes a difference. I adored this book. Is it my favorite Alison Crocken? No, it's not. My favorite one is, I think it's on this cover, Kiss Her Once for Me, which is her second book that she wrote. By far my favorite. It's still just as fucking amazing. Would highly recommend. Next, we have a first on this list, which is an Abby Hernandez. I was torn between two, and I tried to only pick one from an author, and that is Just for the Summer is what I ended up going for. I think objectively this is like a lot of people's favorites. However, Part of This World is also a phenomenal book, which I would highly recommend to everybody. We'll talk about yours truly in a different list, if you know what I mean. Just for the Summer follows our two main characters, Emma and Justin. Essentially, Justin has this thing, he posts something on Reddit saying, hey, every time I break up with someone, they find their soulmate afterwards. Anybody else have this problem? Emma has a similar problem, and they end up being in the same area because Emma can choose where she goes for work, and Maddie lets her choose Minnesota, and she ends up, and it's also talking about family stuff as well, but yeah, and so she ends up in this area, and her mom also ends up there, who's a very shaky character. Essentially, she's very narcissistic, lots of abuse going on about their romance while also dealing with some family stuff. And I would highly, in my opinion, okay, just me, highly recommend reading at least Part of Your World before you read Just for the Summer. You don't have to. It's not mandatory. However, I think it will plus your experience. Then I Think They Love You. I don't remember who this is by. I'll put the cover up on the screen, obviously. This is number 5, halfway there. I Think They Love You it's a fake dating romance following two people. We have a non-profit organization, and we have someone who's really rich. The one who's really rich has to go through all these big events, and he is forever single in his family's eyes. And this guy was someone who either had a crush on or they dated in the past, and so they decided a fake dating relationship would help them both out because they both can get what they want by the end. And so that's what they do. And I adored this. This has my favorite smut of all year, by far. Favorite gay smut that there is. I'm not saying this is why I would recommend it, but also has it's one of those stories that they don't have a lot of time together, but by the end, when you're doing declarations of love, I really felt it, and it really moved me, and I'm so happy I got to read it. And I read it in February, so that's how you know it's stuck. And then yes guys, I cannot have a list without Emily Henry. You are correct, because here we are, Great Big Beautiful Life. I don't think this screams lit fic to me. I read some other stuff this year that did. This does not. This is very much romance in my opinion. So two authors, they are fighting for a spot to work on a biography or a memoir of someone extremely famous. I guess it would be a biography since they're writing it, of someone extremely famous who is dying. And essentially these two people are doing it, and they end up in an unlikely romance while also talking about this other girl's life. A lot of people believe the romance isn't the full picture here, which is why it shouldn't be counted as romance. I'm in disagreement. I think it's a perfect balance, but that's just me. Also, it gets Emily Henry spicy up in here, and I was like, oh, okay. I adored this book. I loved it. I really did. I mean, I loved it so much that I gave it a 5 stars and I went out and bought it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then I had to put a Brandon Sanderson on here because he's taken over my world, and I just have to, it's just one of those things. You just have to pay respect. We have Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. For some reason, this says Mistborn on it, which is book 1 in the Mistborn trilogy. However, it's also called The Final Empire, in case you went, if you have a different cover. So both books are the same. This is the first book in the Mistborn era, or this is the first book you can read when you start the Cosmere, which is the journey that we're going to be going on in the new year, and it's also a journey I'm going on currently. I love this characters. The thing about this book that sets it apart from other fantasy books I read this year was the fact it was so easily digestible. A lot of people said it was. A lot of people said it's really easy to get into Cosmere because of this. And I find Mistborn to be extremely easily digestible. We follow our few characters, Kel, Vin, and I can't think of his name. And essentially, Vin is a Mistborn. She can handle all the elements. Most people who are born either can handle all the elements or one element. And we're following the exploration of all this. I adored it. It ends on a very sad cliffhanger. And then the second book is also great. I absolutely loved The Well Ascension as well. I'm currently reading the third one, Hero of Ages, and I'm also adoring it as well. Now we're down to the top 2 books of the year. Number 2 is Better in Black by Cassandra Clare. This just came out. It has a bit of recency bias for sure. However, I fucking love this book. I adored this book so much. I loved every story in this book. I loved everything about it. I was just so excited to be back in this world. I mean, I'm always in the Shadowhunter world a little bit. Like, I'm always reading something about the Shadowhunters. I'll read a short story here. I'll read a line here. Like, you best believe it. Every day of my life. However, having 10 new stories that are brand new to all my favorite characters, I absolutely loved it, and I'm just so happy. And I think Cassandra Clare did such a great job. And also, like, the little sneak peek of the Last King of Fairy at the end. Oh my god. It was a 5-star read, and I couldn't expect anything else to be right here. So, and then lastly, the book you guys have all been waiting for, what is my #1 read? I read this in January 31st, and then it was Model Home by Rehearsals. I read this, and I thought this is the book to beat this year, and nothing did. I read 300 and like some odd books. I'm currently at 301, and it's going to be more than that by the time this video goes out, but some odd books, and nothing beat it. If I read something better than Model Home, it will be a contender for 2026, even if I read it at the end of 2025, because this video is already being filmed, or I'll come in and interspliced. I adored Model Home. Do I recommend it? No, I don't recommend it. Model Home is very similar to how I feel about A Little Life. I love A Little Life. A Little Life is one of the most disgusting, demented, horrible books I've ever read in my entire life. Did I give it 5 stars? Yes, I did. I think it's beautiful. I have a whole video talking about it in case you're curious. But I have such a hard time being like, yeah, you should totally pick that up. You should totally read that. Because it destroyed me for months. Like, I finished A Little Life. It took me like a month to read, and it destroyed me for 4 months following. It broke me. Model Home also broke me. I read this at the end of January. I felt I didn't even get out like a really big, like, I didn't go into like a slump or anything, but I couldn't move on from some of the images in here for like 4 months. I'm not joking. Broken. Chapter 17, one of the hardest things I've ever had to read. I can't explain it to you. It's deeply personal, which is why this book affected me so deeply. This follows a family. Their mom and dad die, and so they have to go back to their hometown to figure out what happened, and also to, you know, pick up the house and stuff. We're following a character who identifies as non-binary, but the majority of the book, they identify as she, her, he, him, they, them. Like gender fluid? They're gender fluid, what it is. Which is why when I talked about the book, I talked about them in a certain way depending on what I was reading, because it changed so often. And we also are following their several siblings who all have individual problems. They grew up in a home in a white neighborhood, and they do believe that their parents were, you know? And you're trying to figure that out. But in reality, it's also being presented, by the way, I think some people do say that it's a ghost story as well, which I would say it's a very good ghost story. And they come back to the house, and the main character believes the house is haunted, and before their parents die, and now they're having to reawoke these feelings that they haven't had to feel in such a long time. And it's a haunted house genre and poignant exploration of the ghosts that are unexorcisable go inside of us, namely our parents and our childhoods. It was beautiful. It was everything I ever fucking wanted. Thank you so much, River Salzman. I will read everything you write going forward. They are such a talented, beautiful work of art. That, my friends, are my top 10 books of the year. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below.